Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Chris Chestney. Yay!
Thank you, Norm.
Thanks for being here. I've only been asking you for like 2 years to come in.
No.
And I finally wore you down. Kids at home, perseverance pays off.
Wanted to make it more enticing, make it really, you really want it.
Thank you so much. And I wanted you in here for a whole bunch of reasons. One, you're from the area, right? You were born in Pine Plains, is that right?
I was born in Rhinebeck, so I'm a native Rhinebeck, but
nice.
3 days later, they shipped me out and sent me to Pine Plains. So I grew up in Pine Plains.
Why did they ship you out?
Well, that's where my parents lived, so I had to go.
Yeah, you had to go with them.
Yeah, they decided to take me.
That's smart. Did you have siblings at the time?
My sister is 3 years older than I am.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have one sister and a pretty small family. Mom and dad, my sister and I.
Nice. I'm not sure I knew that. I have a sister who's 3 years older than I am.
Not the same sister.
No, maybe
okay.
not.
Okay.
Where does your sister live?
Pine Plains.
Pine Plains. Mine's in Albuquerque.
Definitely
so not the same sister.
Yeah. Okay.
That's very interesting. So you grew up as a little brother. Did you tease your sister a lot?
My sister and I actually had an excellent relationship. We got along very, very well. You know, we're back... you're back in the days when you didn't have all the distractions that they have today, when siblings could go their own way and maybe play a game or find all these other interests. And it was a small town, so you spent a lot of time together. So we got along very well.
With your sister?
And the neighborhood kids, yeah.
Do you still get along well with her?
We still get along, yes. I don't know if it would be termed well, but...
Well, what would you change if you could?
Wow. Okay, Norm. What would I change if I could?
And let me remind you right here, right now, you can always say to me, I'm not answering that.
Oh, thank you.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I would change. It's just that, as you get older, your lives take different courses.
Right.
And she had her family and her children and took one course, and I went a different direction, moved to Rhinebeck, and my life changed there. And, the old adage, a son is a son until he takes a wife. So... What's
the rest of that adage? Daughter's a daughter.
Daughter's a daughter all of her life.
All of your life,
yeah. So you just kind of go, and I gravitated that way, and our lives just took different directions as we raised our families. So that was the only reason.
And did she stay in Pine Plains her whole life?
Yeah, still lives in Pine Plains, and like me, married somebody local and raised her family right there, and stayed in that community. Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
That's I think about that, and how I've got a whole bunch of cousins who did that out in Illinois, mostly stayed right there. Yeah. And it's interesting to wonder about how people's experiences are, how they change from travel or whatever. Now you got out eventually. You went to away to college.
I went to college. So first, growing up, my parents were very involved in an exchange program as I was being raised called American Field Service.
Oh, right.
Has its
AFS.
AFS goes all the way back to the American Field Service that was an ambulance corps, and actually has ties here to Rhinebeck because Daisy Suckley's brother was in the American Field Service. And
wow.
Yeah, so a wild world, huh? So we were very involved, and so I became an exchange student to France my senior year in high school.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it was fantastic.
And where did you go in France?
I went to a city called Annecy in the French Alps, about 30 miles from Grenoble, Switzerland. Yeah, it was
ideal.
Yeah. So there, I was blessed with, be cautious with what I say. I was male, and there weren't a lot of males that wanted to be exchange students for a year.
Right.
And so I got the choice of really where I wanted to go. My first choice was France, and I got the choice of going to France. I didn't get to pick the city. I got lucky with the city and being in the French Alps. But that was my first, from that little town of Pine Plains where there are more cows than people.
And how was the host family there?
They were fantastic. They kind of did an exchange. Their daughter went to Chicago. She was an American Field Service exchange student there, and they took me in. So I had a 12-year-old brother.
Because it doesn't always work like that. It's not always, tit for tat.
No, if you really want to. Our first experience with the AFS, we took a student from Australia into our home when I was about 12 years old, and she remains to this day, 47 years later, like a sister to me, and she lives in Australia, and we communicate regularly. But
where's she in Australia?
She is in Canberra.
Uh-huh.
She went back, went to college, got involved. She actually, if anybody knows a little bit of English Parliament, she was the Black Rod for the Australian Parliament, which is a pretty prominent position. It's like our Sergeant of Arms, except even more detailed.
Okay.
So it's pretty big deal. So, and she's a pretty remarkable woman. She was, my parents just admired her so much and loved her, made several trips to visit her there.
So I'm going to guess that this was not you and your sister who said, oh, let's get an exchange student, but your parents' idea?
It was my parents' idea. She actually only spent about 6 months with us. She was with another family. There was some difficulty there. My father had gotten to know her very well. Pine Plains is a little town. So there's about 2,000 people in Pine Plains. And so when you're like my dad was and my mother, she was a school teacher, you are very involved in everything in the community. So they were involved in this, and they just became very close to Andrea and spent a lot of time with her. And they just, when she had difficulty, they were ready to bring her into our home and spend some time together.
And where had she been before she came to Pine Plains, where it didn't work out?
Just another family in Pine Plains.
Oh, different.
Yeah. So her father was a sheep farmer in the outback of Australia. So when she came to the United States, she lived on an American farm, a dairy farm over there. If I recall, it's a long time ago. I think the parents might have had some marriage difficulty and were splitting up, and so that was falling apart. She just needed another place to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, we had the best of relationships, and
so did you all, when you had just one student who stayed with your family?
Oh, my parents took in others. We had one from Costa Rica. We had someone from Sweden. Yeah. Most of the time, it seemed like my dad, and if there was difficulty in the house where the exchange student was, they came to us. So we kind of picked up the pieces, and they could finish their year here with
the relief pitcher.
Yeah.
The closer. I love that. What an amazing experience it must have been for you, growing up in Pine Plains, not a big place. Had you traveled a lot prior to that?
Not at all. Not at all.
So now you got these people from Costa Rica and Australia and stuff coming and telling you about the world out there.
Yeah. I guess I was so young. I was so young when Andrea was with us because I was 12. I don't know if I really thought about it that way or tried to get much of her life experience.
Yeah, but you didn't need to think about it that way. I mean, you're impressionable. You're a sponge. You're soaking it up, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And so, what were some of the best lessons you learned from your year in Ency in the French Alps?
In the French Alps? Wow. Okay. Well, it was just a great year. So I went there with 3 years of American French education in a public high school. So I didn't have a lot of French knowledge when I went. And so my first thing I had to do was learn French.
Right.
And so it took me 2 or 3 months to be able to acclimate and learn enough French that I could communicate with the family, I could communicate with other people. What were some of my best experiences? Is that what you're asking?
I guess, best experience or lessons that really stayed with you.
Boy. Not to drink too much red wine your first day there.
All right. Well, and you brought some red wine tonight.
We got some red wine, so I'm still drinking it. But it's not French. But
what did you bring? It looks delicious.
This is Juggernaut. So it's kind of a funny thing in the family. If you know the Killington Ski Mountain, they used to have a run called Juggernaut that went around the whole top of the mountain. Okay. It was an easy thing to get lost on in bad times of the year and have to hike through and things like that. And all of a sudden this wine came out called Juggernaut. It's really good.
All right, well, cheers. Here's to it. What is it, a Cabernet Sauvignon or?
I'll say yes. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm not reading the bottle.
I'm going to say yes, too. Yeah. I have no idea. But
it's red.
It's delicious, and it's red. Thanks for bringing it. So you land in France in the Alps, and I believe that kids there are sort of like served wine, sometimes watered down wine from a young age in family meals.
Yeah, culturally it was that was different. I was only 17 years old when I went, but they didn't have the restrictions on consumption of alcohol that we have here.
Right.
It was drank at the dining table with family members. It was not nobody objected to that. And if I recall, I think you could get it if you went out to a cafe. Mostly it was
as a 17-year-old.
Mostly it was smoking cigarettes and drinking little cups of coffee. They did a lot of that in the cafes. That's what you did a lot of.
And did you enjoy that?
Oh yes. Yeah.
And and so when you came home from there, it was all different. Had you developed a taste for alcohol while you were away?
Had I developed?
I mean, were you like most American like teenagers? Were you like sneaking drinks and beers all you could?
I don't think I was. No,
Okay.
I was a pretty quiet. I wasn't out in the parties and doing all those kinds of things when I was that age. When I
Really?
was, before I left for France, I wasn't like a real party kid.
Right.
Going out to and one of the most popular kids in town that was going to all those kinds of things. So I wasn't out at all the parties. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't the captain of the football team. I wasn't even on the football team, but I was.
And well, what kind of kid were you? How would you characterize the young Chris Chestney?
Oh boy.
High school Chris Chestney. Yeah, see, I told you it'd be really hard
You
questions.
didn't tell me the questions were going to be this hard. Yeah. I shouldn't have beat you at tennis yesterday morning.
Oh, snap. I knew that would come up.
I was, my father, I don't know if we haven't really talked about what I do for a living, and we're just assuming everybody knows.
We've got a long time to go.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to get to that. But my mother was a school teacher. My dad was a funeral director in a small town, and your reputation was very important. So I think my parents were very... they were very dominating in terms of, keeping an eye on me. I can remember as a kid trying to go into the Chinese restaurant out there with a fake ID, and he said, "I know your dad." So I didn't get the alcohol that I wanted to get out of the Chinese restaurant. So you couldn't do a lot, but I just think I was a good little boy. I think I was just not getting into a lot of trouble. No drugs, nothing like that.
But there you go. Your parents saying, "Look, it's a reputation business, and you're representing our reputation." And then the guy in the Chinese restaurant saying, I know your family."
Yeah.
It must have been somewhat of a weight on your shoulders. Like, I better behave.
Absolutely. It was always how you were, how I reflected the family and the community. I'll tell you another story. So this is in the late 70s. I graduated in 1982. So late 70s, early 80s, I'm going to high school. And even as I was younger going in, I could never wear blue jeans to school. That was not good representation of the family. You're going to work. School is your job. You will dress appropriately for school, and you will not wear blue jeans to school.
Wow.
And so that was that kind of tells you a little bit about how my dad was and my mom. So it reflected who you were.
What kind of trousers did you wear?
I would wear whatever,
whatever your folks
whatever
gotcha.
pants. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Today we'd call them khakis or chinos or something like that. But yeah, blue jeans were not a garment that you wore when you went out to do your job.
Right.
And that's how my dad was. And I think he didn't wear a pair of blue jeans till I think he was 75 years old.
Right.
And I think Andrea from Australia bought them for him. It was kind of a joke. But, that was just how he carried himself professionally.
And your folks were religious?
My dad was brought up in a Baptist church, but we eventually all went to the Methodist church out there in Pine Plains. And that was a regular thing. I was an usher in the church. I grew up doing all those things, very involved in youth group and church programs and
so
volunteering.
Far, we've described the kind of upbringing, that often leads to kids like rebelling at some age. Just being like, I'm tired of this burden, having to be good and like going to church. Was there a period of rebellion?
No. I was a good little boy. I was a good little boy. So, I think I had my moments. As I went off to college and I got into the alcohol phase and partied and maybe didn't apply myself appropriately in college. But I think I always kind of respected and honored what my folks did. Yeah, I never really had a rebellious stage. And you have to realize I didn't have a lot of time. I went to France. I came back, went to college for 2 years, and then pretty much got into a professional business that still demands professionalism and
right. But at some point, you're not sort of like respecting what your parents' wishes. It's becoming just your character.
Yeah. I think it was a pretty good character. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a really good character. So you went away to college. Where did you go?
I went to Plattsburgh State for 2 years because my original intention was to be a
Plattsburgh State. That's different from SUNY Plattsburgh?
I think it's the same. So it would be State University of New York, Plattsburgh.
Gotcha.
Plattsburgh. Yeah, I think we called it Plattsburgh State back then. So I went up there to be I was going to study American history and become a school teacher, and French is my secondary, so I could be a French teacher as well. So I took off for that. That was my first All these things you didn't know about me, Norm.
I know. Well, so what happened?
About 2 years, be a year and a half into going to college, my father came to me. He had been a funeral director in Pine Plains for 25 years and had begun to own some of the business that he worked for. And he was given the opportunity to buy a business here in Rhinebeck from Mr. Dapson. And Mr. Dapson came to him, just respected him, thought he would be a good person to take over his business. And my father said to me, I have this opportunity. Have you ever thought of it? He never asked me, encouraged me, said anything about going into business with him and being his successor. He always gave me my free will to decide what I was going to do with my life.
Did you ever help him out at
all
work?
the time? Oh, geez. Okay. I mowed lawns and washed cars and
right.
And I was like anybody else. I was probably scared running in through the funeral home. He used to send me in to turn the lights off, and I would dash through the funeral home real quick and turn the lights off and get out of there as fast as I could. But I took trips with him. Right. I did things like that. Always helped him out. But there was always something. We had to do things as kids. We didn't have all the distractions of computers and internet and phones so what you did when you were 12 or 13 years old, you worked, and he needed work. So I mowed lawns, and
right.
I cleaned out the stalls for his boss's horses, and I took care of the pool and did all those things. You worked in the summertime.
Pitched in to help out the family.
Yeah. There were no camps for me. There were no those kinds of things. You just worked.
Right.
Yeah, but they didn't exist.
So 2 years of college, you're studying American history and teaching and thinking maybe you'll be a French teacher, and which seems pretty clear in what you want to do. Your dad has this opportunity. He comes, he sits you down. Did he go up to Plattsburgh to talk with you?
No, I think I was home for winter break.
Okay.
I think I was home for winter break.
And he says, son, I need to talk with you.
Yeah. Well, and really said, I just want to talk to you. There's this opportunity. I've been in business for a long time. Owning your own business is a good thing. You have a chance to to expand a little bit and have another office in Rhinebeck, and it could be a good future for you. But whatever choice you make is up to you. If you want to be a school teacher and pursue that, go right ahead. But this is the opportunity we have. And if you say no, I say no. He's like, I'm not interested if you're not interested. He was probably 50 at the time.
Right.
So he's getting towards the end of his career, and he didn't want to do it forever. So we talked about it a lot. We thought about it a lot, and just decided to make this. So I finished up my semester at Plattsburgh just to finish it because I was already enrolled, and then I left Plattsburgh. And at that time, my training was in Syracuse. There was what they call a mortuary school called Simmons Institute. It's one of the oldest in the country. Unfortunately, has gone by the wayside now. But I went out there to go to school for 12 months. And did my training out there, and then just came back and went to work here. Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So what kinds of classes do you take at Mortuary Science College?
Back then, you were preparing to take a national board exam. And so they wanted to get a little bit of knowledge in areas of some psychology, some business, mostly just operational business, a lot of laws for what controls us with New York State and nationally. And then we had to have expertise in a lot of knowledge in anatomy, a little bit of biology, some chemistry, because of even though all the chemicals that we use are pre-mixed, it's not like we have to. It's like the old pharmacists. They used to have the little thing in there that they had to make all the drugs with, but they don't do that anymore. They just fill bottles. Yeah. So they taught us all that stuff, and those were the kinds of classes. Yeah, some accounting. Took some accounting, all the things to run a business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you? I know part of the job is usually embalming. Mm-hmm. Were there classes on that?
There were. Yes. Yeah. Good that you mentioned that. Yes. That was a big part of it because we had labs for embalming, and so we learned how to do all those different procedures, and you learn a lot about the chemistry, what chemicals for certain size people are required, or what might happen in different circumstances with the way the chemicals will react to to the person's
I guess
body.
how to estimate what volume of chemicals you'd need and stuff like that.
Yeah, all those.
So what a fucking change of pace, from from studying American history and French and teaching, and now all of a sudden you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
What were you feeling at the time? Were you all in, or?
I was definitely all in, and I think for me, because my dad was a funeral director and I grew up around it, I knew what I was getting into. I knew what the life was. I knew what the demands were of the business, and so I just kind of changed my course and thought. I think I just thought more about that business,
right?
And how I would work in that business then. And I was young. I was only 21 years old. I started here when I was 22.
Nothing.
I mean, a pretty intense job to help people through these difficult circumstances when you're 22 years old. You haven't even had any experiences in your own life.
No.
So I was thrown right into it pretty young.
So back to the decision. I'm kind of lead the witness here. I'm just curious, what part of you saying yes to your dad's proposition do you think was wanting to make him proud and happy and not disappoint him, and what part was maybe like, I've seen what that career is like, and he's getting by and doing well, and that could be a good thing for me. And what part, if any, was, I don't know if I want to be a teacher,
or could I be a teacher?
Yes,
that was the other part of it too. Like, was I going to be good enough to be a teacher? I think I had doubts about that at the time. Like, was I knowledgeable enough to actually to pass along knowledge to students and have them be successful? And the business side, I think my father, that's kind of how he said it to me, was, this could become a comfortable life for you, and owning your own business and what it was like to your own business, the demands on your time, the freedom of your time, if he said that to me, that I don't recall, that would have been a total lie. I mean, there's probably not many jobs that are more demanding on your time than mine. 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Right.
There's always somebody that could potentially call you. So it's very demanding on your time. But there's also the other side of it, being your own business person. And as it went on, I mean, I was very glad that I did it. And I think part of the reason we've become friends and you've learned a little bit about me. And a big part of my job, not my job, it really is not my job, part of my life has been able to balance my career with involvement in the community.
Right.
That's something also I got from my parents. Both my parents were involved in, other than the church. My father was treasurer and secretary of the ambulance squad in the fire company for 40 years. So you were involved in your community. So I've been able to balance my career with those kinds of things, which has been very rewarding.
Was your church there in Pine Plains very sort of outreach focused, service focused?
Yes, yeah. It was back in the heyday of churches were still thriving in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And so there was a lot. And Pine Plains is a very interesting community. And back then it was really a very inclusive community. It was very centered, not exclusively on itself, but I always said when something happened in Pine Plains, everybody participated. So if there was a play at the school, everybody wanted to go. If there was a barbecue at the Lions Club, everybody wanted to go. There was not this, that's not my group or that's not my clique. It's that kind of town. So if the Methodist Church had a dinner, the Presbyterians came.
Right.
It's just that kind of a small.
Presbyterians, come on, of course they did.
All right, should I say? No, I'm not. I'm going to be very careful about what I say here.
Yeah, I don't.
But that's the kind of town it was. So I don't know what got us down that track.
And it sounded like you feel that maybe it's more splintered now, more fractured, not as.
I think all towns have grown. Rhinebeck's changed and grown, and there are different things that people have interest in each of these communities. And would I say, and there's been a big change in volunteer organizations and in church organizations that they aren't the center of life and culture in the community as much as it might have been 40 years ago.
It seems very much here in Rhinebeck that service is a center of the culture.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I think that you look at something like Rotary. I'm amazed at how it's grown and how well it's doing and how their programs are happening. And then there are all these
great. It's such a good,
it's great
thing.
And I mean, you're involved with Culture Connect. I just find it amazing what your what's the word I'm looking, achieving with that program.
Right. And those are two of like hundreds of organizations here.
It's unbelievable.
And you have a bird's eye view on all of these organizations, I guess, because of your work with the Frost Foundation.
A little bit, yes. Yeah. Plus I've lived here for 38 years.
Right.
So I've seen them all come or go and learn and been involved with some of them and just gained knowledge of some others.
38 years. All right.
Can you imagine?
So you finished your sophomore.
I was here when the last horse left town,
Finished your sophomore semester, went to Simmons for a year of that stuff.
Yep.
And your dad had worked out an arrangement to purchase the Dapson funeral home here. Mm-hmm. And you got out of Simmons and you landed here and started working.
Yeah, I didn't go home and live with mom and dad or anything. I got an apartment here in Rhinebeck and I just started working.
It's mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a mind-boggling trial by fire. Mm-hmm. And, in a new place, doing this new job, that you had some training, and you mentioned a psychology class at Simmons. Mm-hmm. And now you're trying to comfort the grieving, widows, say, who are twice your age or three times or four times your age. Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, who's this young little guy? Where'd he come from?
This whippersnapper. He doesn't know anything.
Little city boy, something? What's he doing here? Somebody actually said that. Where are you from, the city? Most people would say yes now, right?
Maybe so. So that must have been...
And the other thing was I was also stepping in to take over the business of a man that was a pillar of the community. He was well recognized. Dapson, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was well known and everybody loved him and he was the guy. And
right.
So,
and now it's you. I described you thusly in the promo. A really an amazing pillar of the community.
Thank you, Norm.
Probably more.
I don't like to think of myself that way, but
well, you don't. But it's ridiculous to assert otherwise. A number of years ago, you got the Good Egg Award from the Rhinebeck Chamber of Commerce for all of your things. I'm going to read some of them right now. See if I can make you blush. 2-term president of the Rhinebeck Lions Club. Member of the Dutchess County Agricultural Society, a trustee of the Frost Memorial Fund, vice president and board member for the Rhinebeck Area Chamber of Commerce, former president and board member of the Star Library Board, former president member of the Duchess Putnam Ulster Funeral Directors Association and the New York State Funeral Directors Association, Lions Club Community Thanksgiving Feast, participant Lions Youth Basketball Program. Do you still run that?
No, when the kids grew up, I had to stop.
You did. When my boy was in it, you ran it.
Yep.
A master of the Rhinebeck Masonic Lodge and a member of the board of the directors of the Rhinebeck Bank. Like, this is a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You're a total, overachiever in the community help arena.
I think I just, I learned that from my parents. They did that, and that's...
Does your sister do that?
No, not at all, no. No, she never got involved in things like that in the community.
So the lesson was there from your parents.
Yeah.
You learned it. Yep. Your other sibling did not for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing. I mean, all the things that I've done, all those titles and all that stuff, they mean something, but, just the time that you spend. If I could list all kinds of things that the Lions Club did over years. We built ramps in people's homes, and we painted their homes, and we built the gazebo at the mini park, and we maintained the mini. All those things are so rewarding that you did over time. They mean something.
So you've been doing that kind of stuff, I'm guessing, since you found your feet here. Probably not right away, but eventually you got your footing in this new job, and you started serving the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
So let's say that's 35 years ago. That's long enough for trees to grow really large. What trees, metaphorically or actually, did you plant way back then that you see blooming now, and that make you a little proud?
Wow, you're so philosophical.
That's why I get the big bucks.
Yeah,
Mr. Chestney.
What trees do I see that I wow?
Yeah.
Did I begin something or initialize a program or something like that. I think I was blessed to follow a lot of leaders in the community and kind of build on the things that they did. So if you talk about the Lions basketball program, I didn't start that, but I kept it going. And I think it was towards one of the last years that I did it, was probably 7 or 8 years ago. One of the mothers came and said, I played in this league when I was a little girl, and now my daughter's playing in this league now. So we carried on that for them.
And the league was amazing because it's not just Rhinebeck kids. It's kids from all over the place.
Yeah, it was kids from all over the leagues. And the really big benefit of that was we were very involved with a couple of people from the Astor home.
Right.
And they were able to bring students from the Astor home into the program, and it allowed those students to be involved with students from the community.
Right.
And I don't know how our students in our schools thought about it, but boy, it meant a lot to those young people because their life was isolated there. And they were from other communities, and they got to be part of the Rhinebeck community and play with the kids and learn how to be with them. That was rewarding. Right. That was great.
And the benefit to the Rhinebeck kids. I mean, it's not the most sort of diverse community to see all these other kinds of kids with their needs and
their challenges. You know, a lot of those students had challenges from the Astor home, and so it broadened their view of the world, seeing those students in there. So that was a big benefit. I don't think I can take credit for any trees that have grown and blossomed in the community, but
maybe you
it's
didn't
nice
plant
to think
them,
that way.
But you
I didn't plant them. I nourished them.
You watered them.
I nourished them and kept them going. And I was on the Chamber of Commerce when the farmers market was first created and developed, and that was part of the Chamber of Commerce's program at the time. So there you go.
That's an amazing.
What an amazing thing in the community. I live in the village, and it's crazy on a Sunday morning what the village is.
Oh yeah,
and it's because of that. I mean, it's not just getting a cup of coffee in town. It's really a character of the community.
Right,
is that farmers market.
So your kids, you've got 3 kids.
I do.
How old are they?
So my daughter Samantha is 31. Mm-hmm. My son Matthew's 29, and my son Andy is 28. All went through Rhinebeck schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they following in your footsteps?
No one. And I kind of did like my father. I didn't ask them. I didn't encourage them. No one really wanted to. I think it's true of a lot. I mean, you could probably say the same about your own children. They're finding lives outside of Rhinebeck. There aren't many. There's a lot that return after a period of time, but to come here right after college and start your career, boy, we could go way down the road with that discussion, right? How hard it is to come back in and maybe be able to afford to raise a family in this community. Right. But no, none of my children really aspired to do what I do, which is okay. They're going to do very well in the career paths that they've chosen, and I'm proud of them for that.
And are they similarly service oriented in their communities?
Oh my gosh, my daughter. Above and beyond what I do. I mean, she has done service projects all over the world. My son Andy, maybe it was because he saw what I did. He was very involved with Interact and the Guatemala trips that they did, and he carried that on. He went to Quinnipiac and followed David Ives there. David Ives was an advisor over there, and so he's continued to do it through David's programs. I think careers have kind of demanded more of their time now, so they don't have as much time to volunteer. But my daughter still gives a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah. She's very involved with the Catholic Church and does a lot with those programs and teaching students and things like that.
That must be nice to see.
Yeah. Yep. It instills good values. It instills giving back. Mm-hmm. Right. Which I think is, we can all go all the way back to some of the things we talked about, Culture Connect and what our community is doing to instill those values in a lot of students here in the community.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm. A lot of volunteerism.
Not least of it is the example of the adults who are donating their time to serve on those boards and in those ways. Mm-hmm. Like you were always there at the Lions Club basketball, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great example for kids. My kid played there, Moss played there, and he knew you, and he knew you were volunteering your time, and it's a great example for the community.
Yeah, it was good to get and I got to know a lot of great kids that way, and Moss and I still can greet each other when we're on the golf course together now, and we have that little connection from way back with basketball. So that's been fun too.
Yeah. How's his swing? How's your golf game?
My golf game? I'm struggling right now. I don't know if it's like an age thing but yeah.
Because when you're like 75 or
like, it feels like it. But, it's a golf game. You take a stick, you hit a little white ball, you chase it down, and you hit it again. That's what golf is, And you know what they say? Golf is just a good walk spoiled.
I think that was Winston Churchill.
No, it was Ben Hogan, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was Ben Hogan said that. Yeah.
Ben Hogan. I spoke to him on the phone one time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he ordering a pizza or?
No, about. So what's your handicap there?
My handicap is a 12.
That's respectable.
It's very, I'm
which means
I'm happy
that you
with
usually shoot around an 85 or so.
Yes.
Which is a fine score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an enjoyable game.
And you play.
It takes a lot of time.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's, in theory, relaxation time.
I think we find it challenging. It's just so anything that we do like that is just trying to get better at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you hit a shot every round. You probably hit a shot that went just as you dreamed it would.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, I can do that.
I wish there were more of those.
So it keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
And does your wife play?
Yes, she does. Yeah. So my wife was a very good athlete, and so she played softball and field hockey, and that transitioned very well to playing both tennis and to playing golf. So she's a very, very good golfer.
Oh, you play tennis too?
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Tennis?
Yeah,
is that it?
Is that what you call it, Chestney?
I prefer pickleball.
So for everybody listening, if you haven't gleaned by now, Chris and I are frequent tennis buddies.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is.
It is.
Fat old man doubles.
Fat old man doubles, Sunday mornings.
Yeah, which was so good.
Come if you qualify.
If you qualify. And everybody does. Except for Clark. He comes, he's kind of skinny.
Yeah. He's an old man. He's an old man, though.
Yeah, there you go. And you also ski.
I do.
You're a skiing enthusiast.
Yep. Yeah, I started skiing when I was about 10 years old. I went on school trips on Friday nights to go skiing. And
where would you go on Friday nights?
We would go to Catamount up in Hillsdale. So it was a bus trip from Pine Plains to go up to Catamount, and you took ski lessons. You learned how to ski. Now that you go back to the drinking, I used to drink blackberry brandy on the chairlift going up at Catamount. So maybe I did drink as a kid. Maybe I was a little bit of a rebel.
Yeah.
I just blocked all that out.
You blacked it out. That strong blackberry.
No pun intended.
Brandy, yeah.
So that I learned to ski and raised my kids skiing. It's been great.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, but you said that you weren't especially athletic in high school.
Not really.
Did you play tennis?
I played tennis. I think my dad got me into tennis when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I just started playing with him and some of his friends. When Andrea came from Australia, she was a tennis player. We played together as a lot of friends, and my dad had some older friends. They dragged me along to play, so I learned to play. But not being athletic, that whole physical fitness test you got to take when you're in like 7th grade to make the varsity team. I couldn't pass the physical fitness test, so I had to be the manager in 7th grade. So
no way.
That's what kind of an athlete I was.
Which part of it couldn't you pass?
Oh, I don't remember. Gosh, didn't you have to do like 100 sit-ups back in the day?
I mean,
it was archaic, and I probably had to do those
pull-ups and
pull-ups I couldn't do. What were those line things you had to do really fast? You had to run back and forth really fast. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I just
really?
No.
That's surprising to me because you seem like such a natural athlete.
Now you're sucking up to me.
Yeah. Can I borrow $20? No, you really do. I mean, you're thin and fit. You're a really good tennis player. You're very quick on the court. You probably have a lovely swing in the golf course. Yeah. I imagine you're tough on pickleball and that you're a lovely skier. I mean, these are a lot of sports. You got to have a lot of coordination.
He is like, what do you want to do after the show?
Well, just the $20. Just the $20. Don't make me grovel.
Yeah, but just not. Good, but those were tough tests back in the day. They didn't really want you to pass them. They expected you to be like
I passed
real
them.
athlete. You passed them?
Yeah, I passed
them. Well, now let me compliment your athleticism.
Yeah, it was not especially. I mean, we might have had easier tests in Cincinnati.
Probably.
Yeah.
It is the Midwest, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. All right, I wanted to ask some questions about your work, which I've always been fascinated by.
Sure.
And I think I mentioned to you, I knew some funeral home directors back in the day. Originally, the first guy I met was like 6'8" and like weighed 98 pounds and all was dressed in black, dour expression. I mean, just like the cliche.
Top
like
hat and tails?
Yeah, like if Tim Burton were designing a funeral home director, it'd be that guy.
Sure.
And the second guy was a lot like you. He was so personable and charismatic. He was just friendly and outgoing. And he helped me to realize that's the real job. You know, it's not the mortuary science stuff. It's the psychology stuff.
Yep.
How did you learn to do that?
I don't know that I learned it. I think it's just the personality that I have. I'm just, I'm just kind of always been easygoing and be able to talk to people and just get them through difficult situations. I just think that's either you got it or you don't. It's kind of like acting. Either you can do it or you can't. You can sing or you can't. I could just communicate with people.
Presumably your dad was good at that.
Oh, he was fantastic. He was, so well respected in his community. He was really well respected.
Well, what made him especially fantastic at that end of the job?
I think he just cared. I think he treated everybody just like it was his own mother or father. Just like he was sitting there with a member of his own family.
Right.
He didn't look at it like from a business standpoint. Oh, we profit and loss, and we got to. I'm here to take care of somebody, and you're entrusting me to take care of somebody at the most vulnerable part of your life. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. I want to make this. I want to comfort you. I can't make it easy. It's the worst thing in the world, losing somebody in your family. But I want to help you through this, and that's just how he was. He just was always there. He was there all the time.
Did he give you any tips? Did he share any gems of wisdom with you?
I think I only learned from watching him, from how he spoke. I mean, most of his things, so if you go back 30 or 40 years, we were service-oriented. It was very important. So you went into a restaurant, your waiters and waitresses dressed a certain way, silverware set up a certain way. That was part of the culture back then. So he cared so much about taking care of someone personally, but then how everything was presented. So, we wore suits that all matched. The cars were always cleaned. You never put a car away dirty. Those were the kinds of things that really mattered to him, so that when it was necessary to use those things, you showed that family and that deceased person the utmost of respect, whether it was the guy that came off the farm or the president of the bank. They all got the same treatment. So those were things that you just kind of learned through osmosis. Is that the right term? You just kind of learned from watching your dad.
Right.
And that was the best teaching. And we always said, I worked with two guys for 30 years. And we always said we learned from, my dad's boss, his name was Buell Peck. We learned from him. We learned from two of the greatest guys how to take care of people and to work hard. Yeah.
Huh. Mm-hmm. And so now you have an assistant?
I have an assistant.
Dapson Chestney?
Yep. Cara Bartles. Bartles. Cara was a local young lady, went to school in Rhinebeck, graduated from Rhinebeck, and it was just her interest to become a funeral director. And she's been with me for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. She'll be my successor.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She is my successor.
And so she's learning all of these things from you, who learned them from your dad, who learned them from Buell Peck or whatever.
In 10 years, she's learned everything that I could possibly teach her, and she's done well. She's lucky to have had me as a boss.
I was going to ask, how was it after all that sort of rigmarole, after that trip, after that circuitous route to all of a sudden be a teacher?
Mm-hmm. How was it
for you? So she came on 10 years ago, and you were her teacher, which is what you thought you wanted to do at some point.
I got to do my teaching, huh? Yeah. Yep. How was it? It's rewarding. I think she's learned a lot. She's a wonderful young person. She also has taken on the spirit of volunteerism and being part of the community. And her family's been a part of this area for 100 years.
Oh, nice.
So she's got a legacy here as well.
That's great.
With the family, yep.
But there was this thing, you weren't sure if maybe you had the chops to be a teacher. and now you were her teacher for the last decade.
Yeah. Well, I did
what's
raise 3 awesome children, so did a pretty good job there too.
Do you think that helped you to be a better teacher to this? What do you call her, an apprentice? Or
No, she's. I mean, if I had to call her something, I always say the person I work with, my associate, my partner. She's like my partner. I mean, I'll be very honest. She's taken over the primary role at the funeral home. She does everything. Yeah. So, yeah. So what would I say? Yeah, it is rewarding to know that, I've helped her grow, and we've grown together into a good relationship together and a partnership.
Right.
Yeah, it's worked. There's a lot of people don't last that long in partnerships or in work or stay together or don't move on to another job. This is a difficult job and a unique job for a young lady to choose to do, but it's what she wanted to do. And I think partly my encouragement to give her some freedom to take over and do all the things that I did. Everybody wants Chris Chestney. I'm sorry. They all want, when the phone rings, where's Chris?
Right.
And so I've just given, but I've encouraged the turnover, and I think she's valued that, and she's done very well with it.
Right.
Yeah. So people don't always say, if she says, well, Chris isn't here today, it's not, oh God, I'll wait. It's okay. We'll move on from here, and we'll take care of things that we need to. And I know Chris trusted you to be here, and so we'll do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's a question. I think sometimes we don't always see our parents in ourselves and our actions, but then we'll see them come out in the next generation. And it's like, wow, that's just like Pop or whatever. Do you see any of your learning from your dad represented in how Kara does her business?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because the things that I learned from my father just became part of who I was.
Right.
And so her watching me do those things, that's how she knows the business has to be carried on. So she does things like I did and what I learned from my father.
Right. And do you ever have moments where you're like, oh shit, that's how Pop did it? And
yeah, don't we all?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm just like my father.
But well, not you, but it's in her.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be such a treat.
Yeah.
And you've got 3 kids. Do you see similar things, that what you learned from your folks being manifested by your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I do see, and I see it in both their sets of grandparents. They have wonderful characters, and they're both sides, their mother's parents and mine. So I think they've all learned, just the value of family, the value of community,
Right. Are they all going to be home for the holidays?
They are. Yeah. Yeah. But my son Andrew got married in October, so now it's we got to be with Sarah's parents for a day, and then we got to come to you, then we got to drive to Boston to be with Sarah's parents again. That's all cool. That's good. I'm going to have them for New Year's, so hitting the slopes.
Yeah.
I'll be blessed with that.
And
yeah.
I can't go to Killington.
We'll go to Killington and ski. Yeah,
nice.
Pretty nice. You running out? You need a little more?
No.
Okay.
I'll be fine. Thank you. What was the name of this wine again?
Juggernaut.
And is that where Juggernaut is at Killington?
That's what they used to call one of the runs. I think it must have got confusing for people, so they changed it to something like Sunrise or Sunset or something easy.
That's a shame.
Yeah, wrap around. I don't know.
That's
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So that's good. How long will you go up there for?
We'll be up there for the week. Yeah. So,
with all the kids?
Well, my daughter. Here you go. You're going back to the thing. She'll be on a religious retreat.
Nice.
For New Year's. So she goes and does a retreat, and whatever happens at her retreat.
Where will that be?
I think it's over in the Catskills somewhere. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I haven't had a chance to talk to her yet. So
right.
Yeah. So the rest of us will all be together. Yeah, and they're adults, so they come and go as they can, and do their work if they can. And yeah, it's just lucky that they still want to come skiing with me.
Oh yeah. And will they all stay at your house when they're in town?
Yes. Yeah.
What a joy that must be.
It is. It's awesome. Yeah. Yep. So, the house that I live in was my wife's house from 1967. That was her parents' house, and we were blessed to be able to move in there in 2000 and live with them for a while. Yeah, so it's been in the family.
She grew up in Rhinebeck.
She grew up in Rhinebeck.
In that house.
Where
the two of you now live and have raised your 3 children, who will all be back in that house for the holidays.
Yep. With several of her siblings. It's kind of like the family gathering.
It's idyllic.
It's like you could write a movie, right?
Like Norman Rockwell.
Should we write a movie or Norman Rockwell?
It's a Wonderful
Do a painting?
Life, maybe.
Okay.
You've seen that movie?
I have. You know, there are some people that say, well, it's wonderful that you've only lived in the same town, in the same house for all of your life. And other people say, why didn't you go somewhere?
Well,
but look who's coming here. Everybody's here. This is a great town.
Well, you went away to school, and you went away to France for the senior year.
Yeah. So it's a great town. It's been a great place to live.
That was your senior year. You graduated with your class back in Pine Plains after the year in France?
I missed all of it. I missed my senior year in high school. I missed my graduation. I missed none of it. You know, I didn't go to prom. I didn't do anything.
It must have made you a little bit sad.
I was sad.
At the time.
You know, I was sitting on the beach in Annecy, looking at the lake, playing tennis on red clay. Come on. You think it was that bad,
Sounds
Norm?
terrible.
I was miserable.
And just in case your wife's listening, let's talk about French girlfriends you might have had at the time.
Let's.
Really? So it's been kind of an amazing life you've led.
I've been very fortunate. I've met wonderful people, and you know what? I think that's kind of the neat thing about Rhinebeck is, you know, I was in a career where I met a lot of people that have been around for a long time,
right?
And so the people that have been in Rhinebeck and the ones that go, I don't know anybody in Rhinebeck anymore. And then all the people that have come into the community, like you and Charles, and made friends with all of them. It's really it's a growing, evolving, changing community.
It's dynamic.
It's dynamic. It's wonderful. You see the changes in upstate, or you see the changes in different organizations and businesses in town. You're like, wow. Some people said to us, you know, when I moved here 38 years ago, there was nothing on West Market Street. There was nothing. Just one bar.
And your funeral home?
No, my funeral home was up the street across from the library. So, but between Oak Street and the light, there was nothing.
Where the B&B is now?
Yes.
The Baker House?
Yep. So, you know, there was no traffic. There were no cars. And people go, do you get upset at the traffic? And I'm like, it's a growing community. Yes, there are 10 cars at the light when I pull up to it. But why is that a bad thing? It just means our community has changed. It's grown as it always has. There's always been different people living here, bringing in new ideas. So we should be happy that, you know, there are more people here and it's successful. So I don't know what got me going down that road, but I just think, you know, it's wonderful that it's been refreshing that there are new people in the community all the time.
Right. I think the question was regrets. When you look back at your wonderful life, are there things you wish you had done or wish you'd not done?
Are there things that I wish so my job demanded my time a lot, and
right.
You know, because of what it is and the size of it and everything. So, you know, would I preferred to travel a little more, or be able to take my kids different places? Not that they were denied much. They all participated in a lot of trips and travel and got to go places and went on to wonderful colleges. So
did any of them do AFS?
No one did an exchange.
Did you have students stay with you when they were kids?
No, you know, those programs have all changed, and I hate to say it's a lot of the internet and travel, right. And you know how many people travel now. But when I went to France, nobody ever took trips to Europe. Now everybody goes to Europe for the weekend.
Right.
So it's a different world, and when I went to France, there was no communication. I wrote letters, and it was expensive to make a phone call. Now you can just text or Snapchat or whatever those other apps are that you can do across the world.
Right.
So that's changed the nature of exchange programs, I think.
Right.
Yeah. It was a growth time for me. I was cast out, and I had to grow up. At 17 years old, I had to grow up and learn how to take care of myself and meet new people and adapt.
Then again, at 21, 22, when you took over this funeral home, I mean, it's mind-boggling to think of somebody that young. I mean, as young as I was at that age, you know, having such an enormous responsibility, not just for the business, but for all the people who were there who have lost a loved one.
Yeah. But we expect, you know, that compared to somebody that joins the military and goes out and serves our country and defends us and learns some of those things, or maybe flies a F-14.
It's a lot easier at that age.
It's pretty amazing.
It's a lot easier at that age to follow orders than to be in charge.
It is, but you have to learn how to do it. So and have the ambition and goals to do it. So, you know, those are pretty remarkable people too.
So were there, you know, horrible mistakes you made that you still remember to this day when you were first starting out
professionally?
Yeah. No, in terms of getting married.
Which time? No, I haven't. the things in my career, things that I did. Yeah, there are things, like,
still remember.
I still remember.
Right.
And you only do it once, like, I don't have a problem saying, the time I forgot to take somebody's jewelry off before the burial, and so I forgot to take the jewelry off, and I had to climb down in a 10-foot hole in Queens to get the jewelry back. You only do that once.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. So those are the kinds of mistakes. Yeah.
So you said as a kid, growing up in a funeral home, that, when you were a kid, you would run past the caskets or the embalmed bodies or the bodies waiting to be embalmed or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, sort of implies there's a certain sensitivity to the macabre end of things. Have you completely overcome that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't get any heebie-jeebies ever?
No heebie-jeebies. People always say, how can you be in a funeral home? I'm like, well, if you look into the thoughts of ghosts and things, ghosts aren't supposed to be where the body is. It's supposed to be where the person died. So why would there be a ghost in the funeral home? So there's no ghosts or none of that stuff. And I'm not, do
you believe in ghosts?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. Not really.
But people do, and they're deeply
and they're
invested
entitled to
in
that.
belief.
They're entitled to that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're entitled. I just, I for some reason, I think if there was one, I might have experienced it, but...
You're a prime candidate to have experienced a ghost, I would think.
I've never had any sense of the supernatural or any of that kind of stuff.
So what do you think happens to us after we pass away?
I believe that we go on to our better place. I'm faithful. I believe in God and I believe in heaven. So
right,
yeah.
And some people,
some of us might not.
Don't point at me. So you believe in hell as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
because many people who believe in heaven,
so hard to say believe. That's what we were raised on: believing in heaven and believing in hell. And there's so much more knowledge and more information's come into our society about heaven and hell and what they actually are and what that is. So I don't know what I believe in.
Right.
In those things, but I think we're responsible for our actions on this earth.
And do you, I imagine, when somebody comes in and they're a close relative or their spouse or whoever has passed away, that you ask them about their religious beliefs? So
we always have to discuss those. Yeah. And a lot of my job, is that side of it, planning services. Most of the time, those are just questions that kind of lead into what I have to do. Right. But a lot of things are like social worker kind of questions too. How the family's getting along, what the family dynamics are.
And do you have poems or pieces of scripture or whatever that your go-to little pieces of wisdom, your aphorisms or?
No, I don't go down that. My father always said, I'm not going to do a minister's job and he's not going to do mine. So I don't usually try to be a clergy person. Are you looking at the clock because it's over?
No, we got 60 seconds left.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That was fast.
Yeah,
Did we cover everything?
I told you it would be.
What else? What other question? You got a better question?
No, that was the only question I have left. And this is a good one to go out on. Is
pun intended.
Do you have a casket that could fit, say, Wilt Chamberlain, who was 7'1"?
I don't have one. They are made. Yes. Yep.
Are there standard lengths of caskets?
Standard length is 6'8".
6'8".
6'8" would be standard length for everything.
Big enough for all of us.
We can customize everything. I can get you what you need. Yep. Yep.
I see. And
even wider if I have to get wider.
Oh, please. I just lost a few pounds. You give me a little break. All right. Well, we are just about out of time. And
this was great, Norm. It did go fast.
We didn't get to talk about all the embalming stuff, here's the first step of embalming. And I love this so much. Step 1, verification of death. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had somebody in there who was purported to be dead and you're like, wait a minute, they're not dead?
I have, we all read the stories because the internet's wonderful for those kinds of things. I have not, but the easiest sign of death is eyes are dilated. So that's usually pretty simple to tell.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen.
All right. Well, Chris Chestney, thank you so much for being here and answering all my questions and bringing this yummy wine. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a fabulous Friday and a great weekend.